Want to learn how to create a weekly meal plan? In today's video, I'll give you a behind the scenes look at my system. Hey meal preppers, it's Allison, Prep Dish founder, here to help you have a happier, healthier mealtime. Over 10 years ago, I worked as a personal chef, going into my clients' homes and cooking their weekly meals. But I soon realized that I could take the system I was using to cook for multiple families each week and could easily translate this for the home cook. And my weekly meal plan system, also known as Prep Dish, was born. Today I'm sharing with you all of my tips and tricks that go into creating weekly meal plans. My number one goal with meal planning is to save time. I truly believe that spending time up front getting organized with meals will save a significant amount of time throughout the week. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first step of meal planning is to decide how many meals you're going to need for the week. Here's what you'll want to consider. Look at your calendar. How many days will you be eating at home? How many people will be eating at each meal? Don't forget any friends or family that might be visiting throughout the week. Remember, we are only planning meals for 1 week, so you only need to look at that week. You want to do an inventory. Check your fridge, freezer, and pantry. Do you have existing meals that you can use for the next week? You'll also want to check to see if you have any food items that need to be used. So this will be helpful when we go to the recipe selection phase. Now, some meal plans just focus on dinners, and while that's a good start, I like to keep in mind that you'll want to have a plan for all meals and snacks throughout the week, even if some of them are repetitive. So this is a key step that people often miss, but make sure to think through things like breakfast and snacks and even lunches. And a quick reality check. Even when I was a personal chef doing all of the cooking for people, they often overestimated how many meals they actually needed for the week. So don't get too ambitious here. You don't need, even though you're gonna eat 21 meals throughout the week, a lot of those will end up being eaten out or even just leftovers or on the go. So don't overdo it here. So just going through these questions each week will get you started with how to plan meals for the week. Here's where I've settled when I'm making a weekly meal plan. 4 meals. These are typically dinners, but I'll use leftovers for lunch. And because I work from home, I really look at these as interchangeable, both lunches and dinner items. A large salad. This is something that I add to all of my meal plans. If you're a Prep Dish subscriber, you know this. It really helps you to keep things flexible throughout the week, so you can use it as an additional side or even use it for a lunch option or dinner option. Just add some protein, maybe leftover from another meal, or a hard-boiled egg or a can of tuna. And then breakfast, so you can stick to a tried and true recipe and just repeat every day, but just make sure that you have the ingredients on hand that you do need for breakfast that week. Next are snacks. So these are often overlooked, but if healthy eating is your goal, then you'll want to include some, whether it's fresh veggies or fruit for snacking, but the goal is making eating healthy easy. So like you literally don't want to have to think throughout the week what to grab, just have something there and you're setting yourself up for success, and snacking is a big piece of that. And then last but not least is dessert. So this is optional, but if you know that you have a sweet tooth, at least be intentional with what you're choosing. Also, if you know that you have a healthy indulgent on your meal plan, that can help prevent those in the moment splurge purchases while you're at the grocery store. So that's where I've landed. Not every week is gonna look just like this, but I found this is a really good place for most families. So if you can take care of these meals, you're gonna be in a really good spot. The next step in planning a week of meals is crafting the meal plan. Before showing you some samples, I wanna give you some insight into what I consider when selecting recipes for my meal plans. So we have the flavor and taste variety to please my chef background, and then we have the nutrient variety to please my dietitian background. So one thing to look at are the protein options. I try and make sure each week I have a seafood item, a chicken or turkey, so some kind of poultry, and then pork, beef, bison, lamb, some sort of red meat, maybe a plant-based meal. And then for veggies, really color is king here. So if you want to ensure that you have a variety of nutrients, just make sure that your produce is a wide range of colors. You want the meal plan to look like the rainbow, and that is a way to make it easy to ensure you're getting all the different nutrients, as long as you have orange, white, green, red, purple, all the variety of colors, you'll be getting all of the variety of nutrients as well. So as I mentioned earlier, time is always a top priority when I create a meal plan. I want the food to be quick and easy, but I still want to feel like I'm taking care of myself and creating delicious, nourishing food without spending a ton of time in the kitchen. So then a ninja move of mine is to prep once, eat twice. I alluded to this earlier. I'll show you more in my sample menus how I do this, but this is a big trick that I use constantly throughout my meal plans to save time but keep up the variety that I mentioned earlier and keep my taste buds happy. Another piece that's important to me is using real food. So if I'm gonna spend the time in the kitchen, I wanna prepare foods that are going to leave me feeling good. Another trick is to freeze your foods. So you can double or even triple a recipe so that you have leftovers that you can freeze. This is setting yourself up for success on a whole new level. You also want to keep in mind sales and seasons. So I group this together because they have a lot more crossover than you might think. So check your sales flyers to see what's on sale, but keep in mind a lot of that is also going to be what's in season. I think seasonally when it comes to my ingredients, but also the food items that I'm choosing. You'll see that when we look at the sample menus, but in the winter I'm choosing a lot more soups and stews, and in the summer more salads and grillable items. So you'll also want to consider inventory. So go back to what you have on hand and use that when you're selecting recipes. One of the best ways to save money is to actually use everything that you have on hand and use everything that you buy. The next item is what I call crossover. So food waste is something I think a lot about when it comes to meal planning. I hate to have leftover veggies hanging out in my fridge at the end of the week. As I mentioned earlier, this is a good way to bust your budget, is to just simply not use the foods that you're purchasing. So I personally will not create a recipe that leaves you with half of an onion or a portion of a squash. I make sure that each week's meal plan is going to use all of the perishables that I buy each week. So kind of next level, but something to keep in mind. If you see that a recipe is only going to use half of something, try and think through how you might use the rest of that. So the last tip is to stay flexible. For example, I usually have a meal at the end of the week that if I don't get to it, I can just stick in the freezer. So again, no food waste and using all that food that I purchased. Now let's bring these meal planning tips together with 7 sample menus that follow my weekly meal plan system. Okay, so the first menu we're gonna look at is the beginner's menu. This is a menu, just as some background, that I created if you're just learning how to meal plan. It's really a meal plan for beginners guide. I have this link for free below. A few things that you'll notice is the chimichurri is used twice, but it's used at the beginning of the week on salmon and then later on flank steak, so 2 different meals. The spinach I also use twice, and then both in the green smoothie and in the flank steak meal. And then the flank steak also used twice. So I first use it just as a flank steak, and then the next day it's used in some fajitas. So this kind of starts to show how, you know, you can get multiple use out of one ingredient and have the meals still look quite different. So just as a side note, this menu is perfect if you're just learning how to meal plan. I created this as a meal planning for beginners guide. I have it linked for free below, so you could use this as a guide, and I really kind of walk you through what everything means and how I approach meal planning. So now let's move on and look at some of the January meal plans. So January week 1, I wanted you to see the organized meals, how I kind of do the variety of proteins. So I start with salmon, and then the drumsticks are chicken, and then lamb, and then a soup. So you see I've kind of used a variety. The salmon or seafood is usually at the beginning of the week just because it does not last as long in the fridge. And then of course the salad, breakfast, snack, and dessert. And because this is the first of the year, there's a few kind of themed items. So that's another thing when I look at the calendar, like I mentioned, is check to see if there's any fun holidays. Is it St. Patty's Day or is it Valentine's Day? And make sure you add something fun to go along with that week. Okay, now let's look at January week 5 meal plan. As I was mentioning earlier, a big part of meal planning 101 is letting ingredients do double duty. So I really like this week because I have the slow cooker pork on the first day, and then meal 3, you use that pork in a Mexican pork salad. The sweet potato I also use twice. So I make a bunch of sweet potatoes at the beginning of the week. They're used as a side with the pork, but they're also used as a breakfast item with sweet potato breakfast bowls. And then the trout you'll notice is meal 4, but that's actually a frozen trout, so it can be used later in the week versus at the beginning. Okay, now let's jump to a September meal plan, September week 2. And one of the things I want to point out here is, I talked about having the variety of veggies. So what I do is I'll just go to this grocery list here and kind of read through, and we've got celery root or cauliflower, celery, carrots, broccoli, green beans, mushrooms, avocado, bell pepper, acorn squash, and greens. So you can kind of visualize those colors. You can see there's a nice variety there of a wide range of colors. So I've kind of got this like meal calendar thing going on, but keeping the flexibility piece that I was talking about. You can see this is more of a fall menu, but I want to show you a real like summer menu and winter menu. So as you get further along in learning how to meal plan, you'll really want to watch the seasons. So here we have a summer meal plan. This is July week 2. You'll notice first off, there's a lot of grilled items on here, some burgers, some skewers that you would not see on a winter menu, some seasonal produce, so watermelon for dessert, much more appropriate in July than it would be in, say, December, and still doing double duty on ingredients. The bacon is split up, used both on the burgers as well as in the salad. And another reminder that, that dessert can be really simple, so just some watermelon, the breakfast smoothie, strawberry mojito, again, a lot more kind of appropriate in July than say December. Okay, and now let's move on to a winter menu. So I've got the December week 3 meal plan pulled up. You'll see there's a slow baked brisket that's used twice in this menu, chicken pot pie soup, you can't get more wintry than that. And even the breakfast option of baked eggs with marinara is a lot more kind of wintry style breakfast option. Okay, so the last meal plan I want to look at is November week 4. If you haven't noticed, a big part of my weekly meal plan system is to cook once and eat twice. So here you have the carnitas bowl, and then the next night the carnitas are used in a soup recipe. So this is a video that I did last year. I am linking that below. Both of those recipes are in there as well. And another thing I wanted to point out, so here the snack is really simple. It's just oranges. So you might have noticed, but between the breakfast, snack, and dessert, I always try and keep one of them super simple. So maybe the dessert is just watermelon, or the snack is just a veggie or a piece of fruit. So I really look at that piece and make sure not all of them are complicated. So if I have a dessert recipe, I'm not gonna have a snack recipe, and vice versa. So just another way that you can kind of figure out balance throughout each week. Okay, so I hope that was helpful going through those sample menus. Let me know in the comments below if you saw any recipes you'd like to try. I've created all of these menu plans for my website, prepdish.com, which offers a meal planning service. So if you're not familiar with meal planning websites like this, I create meal plans like the ones you just saw now for my customers every week. I have details linked below if you might be interested in a meal plan service like this, as well as details on a free trial. I also want to point out that many of the recipes are on the Prep Dish blog. I've linked that below. The first menu that you saw here, that can be downloaded for free by signing up for our newsletter. Again, that is also linked below. After you select the recipes, the next step in how to make a weekly meal plan is to make a grocery list. So I have an entire video that outlines this process, and I will link that below, but here are my top 3 tips. So first, organize your list by grocery store department. You probably saw this when we were reviewing the meal plans, that this is how I make my grocery list. The second is to use curbside pickup or delivery to save time. And then the third is to stick to the list, stick to the list, stick to the list. So because we are planning a weekly menu, you should be able to get by with only going to the grocery store once. So this will help with budgeting, saving time, and your health goals. So the fourth step is to refine. So you'll want to continue to refine and keep in mind that the process is going to look different, maybe even just depending on what stage of life you're in right now. So my meal planning looked a lot different when I was single than when I was newly married to now when, you know, I have a family and we have frequent dinner guests. So it just continues to evolve and look different. Okay, so now I want to hear from you. When making a weekly meal plan, what are some of your family's favorite recipes that you like to include? So for example, my husband loves mustard chicken and I love having spaghetti squash with like a beef marinara sauce. So these both make appearances on our meal plans probably at least once a month. And if this video is helpful, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and hit the like button so I know to make more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.